afternoon. Welcome to this BetterBev webinar. I'm John Fay. I'm a project manager at NUMOA, and I'm working on the BetterBev project with many other partners. I will be the moderator today. Before we get started, I'd like to review a few housekeeping details. Please note that this webinar is being recorded and transcribed by Teams. And earlier this month, BetterBev held another webinar highlighting a case study on organics collection from breweries in Providence, Rhode Island. Both webinars will be posted on the BetterBev website at betterbev.org. Please keep your microphones on mute during the presentations and use the chat to drop in questions. The presenters will take questions at the end, and both from the chat and live on mics. Today, we will be focusing on how a recognition program can bolster the pollution prevention efforts of environmental agencies and other groups by harnessing collaboration. Kind of have three main points to get across today. Next slide, please. Thanks. One, BetterBev is up and running, and your state organization can join in, participate in many different ways. Two, the shared resource model of BetterBev is replicable, transferable, and efficient. And a third point that we hope to get across is that the recognition assessment form actually gives businesses a simple and clear way to engage in pollution prevention. So we're hoping to get those points across, and to do so, we have some fantastic speakers today. We have Rob Gilliman, who is a pollution prevention coordinator from US EPA in Region 1. We also have Alyssa Lewis, who's an environmental scientist at the Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management, who's been working on this BetterBev program. And we have Luke Truman at the New England Environmental Finance Center, who's a senior program manager, and that's with the University of Southern Maine, but the work is throughout New England. Okay, with that, I'll turn it over to Rob Gilliman to get us started and fill us in on where BetterBev fits into the state of pollution prevention today.
Thank you, John. I'm assuming you're going to be just scrolling through the slides, and I'll prompt you once we're there. So appreciate that.
Yes.
So first of all, I just want to thank everyone for coming to learn more about BetterBev today. We're talking about this recognition program, but what we're really talking about is this underlying mode of collaboration that supports this recognition program. Recognition programs have been around for a long time, but what we've found is the real innovation is how to work together. And what this does is it creates a collaboration that allows members to share resources, and it really promotes and encourages a new type of innovation that I've seen that's been really exciting. And this happens in two general areas. One is on the technical assistance side, so there's technical assistance benefits, and also programmatic benefits as well, how we're running these programs overall. And so we see that there's underneath technical assistance, there's better outreach, there's stronger access to industry expertise and quality technical assistance support. And for the programmatic benefits, we really can see that there's programmatic efficiencies that are gained that help programs be run simpler with fewer resources. We can also test and scale successful strategies. This is really something that's unique to networks. You've got a lot of different nodes in the networks, a lot of different programs in the networks, and they're free to innovate and try new things. And if their testing is successful, they can be scaled up by the other members of the network. This has been going on for the BetterBev program. We're also able to think about long-term programmatic viability. What this means is to actually design a program that can sustain itself economically even after the grant funding has gone away. This is an aspirational goal, but we've been talking about it, have a work group, and this glimmer of hope is getting clearer and clearer as we build our resources and our assets. So it's exciting. And one of the really interesting aspects of this network, and that we've seen, it was unexpected, is that because there's multiple people working on the same project together, it's very motivating and motivates staff. It motivates the people who are coming up with new ideas and just working together. And as a longtime P2 coordinator in Region 1, it's been great to see this sense of energy that's been building among the P2 programs. So let's go to the next slide. Those are some of the benefits that are there, but really I see that these benefits are not just sort of efficiency for the sake of efficiency, but there's really an upcoming funding challenge that I can see that makes building a network and sharing resources imperative. There's two general points here. First of all, since the P2 program has been funded in the 1990s, its funding amount really hasn't changed that much. It's the STAG funding of the state tribal assistance grant funding has been between $4 and $5 million a year. The source reduction assistance funding, or SRA funding, has been between $1 and $2 million per year. That has not changed for decades. And over time, the purchasing power of the U.S. consumer dollar has gone down by about 50%, over 50%. So we have less funding just overall than we did 20 years ago. In addition to that, there's been the recent bill funding that has brought new programs on and provided additional funding that's more than doubled the amount of funds in the last 2 years. And we're hoping that there's still some bill funding left over. You know, it's uncertain if that's going to happen, but I think there's a good likelihood. But nonetheless, that is not sticking around forever. And so when those funds go away, we're just going to be back to a place where programs are going to think much smarter about how they plan and conduct their work. And I really think that working as a team, as groups, we'll be able to share those resources to make our ongoing success possible. So let's go to the next slide. The next slide, which I hope is, yeah, here it comes, is a peek at the network. And what is this network? How does it work? Here we see in this graph, there's 8 different P2 programs that have joined the network. And there's also a little purple box there that's the Toxic Use Reduction Institute, which has joined the network as a contractor, a very pivotal and important contractor. And in the middle, the Northeast Waste Management Officials Association acts as the central coordinator. And this is key. You cannot have a network without a coordinator who could handle the ongoing issues of planning meetings, keeping notes, keeping people on task, dealing with standing up work groups, and just managing the network. It's very difficult for a member of the network to be a leader, but if you can designate a third party to do that, I've seen that as a necessary component to building a network. So that's one important message. The other thing about this network is that once everyone's coordinated, we found that everyone can work to their strengths and contribute in their own way. And that's what we've seen as these programs have developed. Some have developed sub-awards to support the networking capacity. So NUMOA is a sub-awardee, just happens to be a sub-awardee to the Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management. But everyone in the network is contributing in different ways. So we have another grantee that has helped to fund branding, professional branding efforts. Other grantees or collections of grantees create the workbook or the assessment form that we use to assess participating industries. Similarly, designers who create their certificates and can test out that type of graphic design. Someone to build the website, people who contribute to the website, who contribute to social media, and even help develop our brewery map, which we had to build the brewery map, and now we're populating the brewery map, which we'll see in an upcoming slide. So this is the network, and these are some of the ways that the network works together. I kind of think of it as the fable of stone soup, where everyone throws in their ingredients, and at the end, we have something that's synergistic, much greater than the whole. So let's go to the next slide. And so I wanted to focus on two areas of where we've seen this sort of improvement. And one of them is in improved outreach. So there's a number of elements with that. One is that, as I mentioned, we've been building a professional branding and a style guide. What the branding does is it's the BetterBev was the brand that we developed after having almost 12 meetings over about a 6 or 7 months period to come together, pick a name that was very intentional that would work with our state programs. And then there's a guide, a style guide, which we give to breweries that allows them to use the brand, the logo, the tagline in ways that they can put on their cans or use in their advertisements. And so the style guide is very useful. It gives all sorts of insights into how to do that successfully. Over on the right-hand side, you see a map. We have over 50 breweries that are on that map, and it's already expanding to other parts of the country, including Maryland and North Carolina. We're hoping that we can get more breweries that have been certified by other programs to join our map, because it's a resource that we can all use. And there's also a website and social media that really has helped with our outreach. And most importantly, we have industry insiders who have trusted contacts that we've been able to rely on. And in all my years working in the P2 program, I've never seen this done as effectively, where there's been intentional efforts to find people who were respected within their community, who had a Rolodex or a list of contacts that they could call up, and they could get doors opened to learn more about the BetterBev program. So those are some examples of the sort of improved outreach that we're engaged in. Let's go to the next slide, please. The next slide talks about technical assistance support. So if one giant challenge for P2 programs is to reach companies and get them to open their doors, a second massive challenge is, how do you provide high quality technical assistance where companies are immediately appreciative of the insights and the recommendations that are being given? And to tackle this challenge, the first thing we did was rely on our industry insider. These are Luke Truman and Rob Van Dennebiel. Both of these people have long-standing history working with the microbrewery industry, particularly Luke Truman, who worked for Allagash Brewing Company in Maine, and really could walk into a facility and talk about what he saw in terms of improvements. And so he's been able to help out not only or focus on the microbreweries in Maine, but in other participating states. So he's able to help out with site visits by going to other states and providing site visits. He's also been reviewing P2 recommendations to make sure that they're on point, they make sense. So even if someone else has done a site visit, those recommendations can be reviewed. And he's in the process of developing office hours, which would allow all of our members to call up, and also not just members, but not just members of the P2 programs, the P2 program members, but the clients to call up and hear about good recommendations and what to do, and to clarify things that they have to do. So this is a really important part of our technical assistance. Similarly, the development of the P2 workbook has been done with the input of Luke, as well as all of our other members, but we have security and confidence that the quality of this workbook is really high, and we really understand how it's being received by breweries, thanks to this support. I mentioned earlier the Toxic Use Reduction Institute. There was a understanding that we needed to provide really high quality input for chemical alternatives assessments, particularly for cleaning products, which breweries use a lot of cleaning products. And the Toxic Use Reduction Institute actually has a cleaning lab that could provide those assessments. They also provide training to allow our P2 program managers to go off and collect samples to send back to the lab to conduct those chemical assessments. And so that was a way to procure or to secure external technical assistance that was very valuable. And then everyone shared it. We were able to share that resource collectively. And finally, there's an online library of P2 resources. It's the website that we have at betterbev.org. And there's a growing list of webinars, of resources that you can go to that not only technical assistance providers can use, but breweries can use as well. So let's go to the next slide, please. So this is two of the big areas of benefits for our members. So let me conclude just by discussing about how to build the network. Obviously, we've been working on the BetterBev program, and we think that any P2 program can join BetterBev pretty easily to experience the network and become part of it. If you're already working with breweries, we can think of ways to co-brand where you can put your brewery on the map, use our materials, point people in the direction of BetterBev, but still maintain your own brand if that's needed. That's actually how we started with working with New Hampshire's Sustainable Craft Beverage Recognition Program. And then eventually, so we've been working with them, and eventually they adopted the BetterBev name. Or if you don't have any work with breweries, you could maybe pilot work with breweries, do one or two just to see how it works and take advantage of the resources that we have. And so that's one thing. But what I'm really interested in, even at a larger level, is for the attendees today to think about self-organizing around a sector or topic. This does not take necessarily EPA's direction. It's something that could be done on your own. And the way to do this was to build a partnership group around a topic that people could coalesce around. You'd have to find a coordinator and allow that coordinator to be funded, so a program could work as a network. And then my other recommendation is to find someone who's an industry expert who can really provide that kind of credibility and industry insight and outreach that we found to be so useful with the BetterBev program. So what I've done now is I've given you a bit of an introduction to the BetterBev program, talked about its benefits as a network, working as a network, as well as a recognition program, provided some examples of the benefits of technical assistance and outreach and just the technical assistance itself, and giving an invitation to explore how to build networks, either with the BetterBev program or as the discussions continue outside the BetterBev program. So with that, I think what would be our next presenter is going to look at their experience working as a P2 program in the BetterBev program. So Alyssa Lewis from Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management, it's all yours.
Thank you, Rob. So as Rob had mentioned, I work for the Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management. I'm specifically in the Office of Customer and Technical Assistance. So I do have my contact information on this slide, but it'll also be at the end of this. You can check out our website if you're interested. And I'm mainly going to be talking about how Rhode Island State Program has really strengthened through the regional collaboration. So Luke, next slide. So we began working with the craft beverage industry in 2019. There were some discussions taking place regarding wastewater. The processed wastewater at breweries was kind of becoming a regional concern. And due to that, we decided to apply, and we received P2 funding in 2020 with the focus on the processed wastewater. We utilized a wastewater engineering contractor, and that was to kind of learn how to sample and also how to implement P2 and determine how efficient the practices were. and then that could be replicated in other facilities. So you can see in the photo, we were sampling and doing more of that field work. We completed 4 case studies under this grant, along with some other deliverables, which are on our website. The initial site visits also included green cleaning practices and energy reduction, but like I had mentioned, wastewater was our primary focus. And that's kind of what we stuck with. So next slide, Luke. So during this time, of course, 2020, we know that there was COVID, businesses were still struggling. And there were still some restrictions on what could be done. So we, we had some setbacks there. And then 2 years into the project, the grant manager left her position. It was great for me because then I got this job, but then we only had a year to complete the project. So we had to learn how P2 worked and what the grant needed. We had to catch up on industry understanding. I have a sustainability background, but I did not have brewing specific expertise. So that was very difficult. And we still had to finish post P2 implementation sampling and fit that all into the year extension that we received. So we also kind of have a small pool of breweries. Most of you most likely know we're the smallest state. So that was very difficult because these breweries were short-staffed and busy and we didn't have many to pick from. It made us very grateful for those that did work with us and opened their doors and gave it their best effort. And that's how we were successful. The brewing community is amazing. Next slide. So while we were dealing with processed wastewater and sampling, our regional partners were doing some other stuff. New Hampshire and UMass Boston were individually working on like workbooks for their recognition program, which we hadn't even started yet. Connecticut was looking into energy reductions, and they were also doing some wastewater side streaming work. Turi was already working to reduce the hazardous cleaning and sanitizing chemicals that were being used. And they had put out some case studies showing how these alternatives can not only be effective, but they were cost comparative in many cases and just simply safer for workers. And then, we all kind of realized that we were working with the same industry very close to each other. New England we have that as a plus, a benefit. And we were all working with the same goals to reduce pollution. Our projects were just a little bit different. Next slide. So it was decided to just put it all together. And we were able to do a lot more than if we were just working individually. So we were able to utilize existing relationships that, like Rob had mentioned, Luke and Rob had already established. And then, of course, the workbooks that were already being worked on. Luke is going to get into that next, so I'm not going to go too deep into that one. Turi was, willing to work with us. So we have a lab that we can rely on for testing, cleaning, and sanitizing, which is what our hopeful next project is going to be. And then, utilizing Luke, we've been able to provide this high level of technical assistance in Rhode Island that it would not be the same if we were doing it on our own. We've been able to also provide our resources that we completed during our previous grant. As other states started to shift their focus to wastewater, we had already completed some of the sampling that provided data that could help them get it started. We're able to really discuss case studies on a deeper level. Nothing better than just being able to talk to the creator of these case studies and ask them questions and try to see how we can replicate it in our state. And using their expert knowledge on the topics makes it a lot easier. And then we visit a lot of breweries in other states when we can, which is very important because we get to see all these different operations. Operations vary by the facility you go to. And so you really get a better understanding of the industry. And we really support one another. If there's ever a question, we know we can just send an email to the group and someone's going to respond. And we can always bring it up at our next, I think we have monthly meetings right now, so we can always bring it up to at the next meeting. And you never really feel alone or confused, which is really important. And utilizing Numoa, I'm sure John will tell you it's like trying to wrangle chickens into a cage. We are all always all over the place, but John does an amazing job coordinating. And it really keeps us on track and keeps these projects moving along. And is that my last slide? Next slide. It's my last slide. So now Luke is going to start talking about the assessment form. And this is a form that we're all able to use. So take it away, Luke.
Thank you, Alyssa. Yeah, so the assessment form that we have on the website now, which you can see the link there, is for breweries specifically. And it is broken into 8 sections: raw materials, water, wastewater, energy and emissions, cleaning and sanitizing, solid waste, packaging materials, and environmental culture. The reason that we went with those 8 sections was based on a lot of conversation with industry. When I was at Allagash, actually, I was helping Maine work on an assessment form, which also helped the work that happened at New Hampshire and Massachusetts as well. And so the idea here, though, is to be able to capture a pretty good snapshot of the industry and the specific brewery. And so the way we have it set up, 30% of the possible points is leads to recognition. And in that graphic called out on the right is the top of the form. And this is a bit of a disclaimer. So if somebody goes to fill out the form, they get to see that their data isn't going to be used in weird ways. Like, our intention is to support the manufacturers and to vet their processes and ethos, and we have no desire to somehow exploit. And also to explain, so that disclaimer explains that most breweries are going to land in around that 30% threshold. And so we want you to know that it's not crazy that you would wind up there, and that the value is what comes next. So in thinking of what comes next, so the assessment process itself, as I mentioned, our desire is to get a snapshot of what's happening, and we have a very comprehensive list. And the reason for that is that, as Alyssa noted, no 2 breweries are the same. You've got different energy systems, you've got different couplings. So a brewery with a restaurant, a brewery with a distillery, there are a lot of variations, fuel types, a lot of things to account for. And so we want to be able to kind of have a catch-all and be able to service a brewery that has a 1-barrel system and a brewery that has a 75-barrel system. And so the whole purpose of the form is to kind of get an idea there. And the actual assessment, so filling out the assessment, helps identify opportunities. And the opportunities, one, we want to capture what's kind of standard, and be able to look through the results and see where there are opportunities. And then we also want to give the breweries themselves the ability to tell us what cool stuff they're doing and be awarded for that. So, or rewarded, I suppose, with points for the cool, innovative things that they're doing, as well as tell us what they need for support. So our priority is to basically bring the breweries into the club, and then focus on the continuous improvement piece. And I say that 30% threshold is achievable. It doesn't mean that everybody's going to qualify. You need to have some pretty robust practices and pretty good understanding of your impacts in order to meet that 30% threshold. But we have seen that the recognition process, as well as receiving recognition, really leads to engagement. And as a pollution prevention technical assistant, you should know that lower performers have more low-hanging fruit. And so, there's more potential for reducing pollution in going after that low-hanging fruit. It's more affordable, it's less technology-based, and we'll get into that in a second. And we've seen that participants really have a lot of cool things to offer us. And, because every operation is a little different, we learn from every operation. And so we want to be able to share cool stuff with other people so that they can enact cool stuff as well. So the graphic here are a couple of questions in the raw materials section, one of which is asking about innovative practices that the person filling out the assessment has given themselves, and kind of explain their answer there. And then the other question is about support that they need, as well as a call out for any uncertainty about why we're asking this question, why it matters. And so, it's an opportunity for us to get student interns doing research projects. It's better for us to really know what we're talking about and to be able to actually provide reason for the questions we're asking. And the technical assistance itself, the highest impact opportunities are low tech and process based. And so we want to really focus on those. And so employee engagement when it comes to energy benchmarking or utility benchmarking, goal setting, and utilizing what's out there. So benchmarking, the Brewers Association has a wonderful benchmarking tool. We can help breweries actually go through the benchmarking process and help them with goal setting. And the assessment form, allows you to get points based on how well you perform. Reuse is a big one when it comes to water, chemical solutions, solid materials like can tops or pallet wraps, for example. Breweries, if you talk to any brewer, that most of the process is cleaning. People think that you're this crazy chef in a cool kitchen doing cool stuff and drinking beer, but in reality, you're spending about 90% of your time cleaning. And so you use a lot of resources doing that. And also most of the water that's going down the drain is full of a lot of energy. And so you want to be able to recapture both that water and that energy and be able to, reuse that. A lot of those impacts, the standards of procedure will impact. And so being operationally aware and really focusing on the things that you can control that don't require a ton of investment, it's going to get you most of the way there to have a really efficient operation. And so, here are a couple questions listed that have to do with these things. So our next steps, we've got additional assessment forms in process. So wineries, cideries, and distilleries, wanting to bring the same level of attention to those industries as we have to breweries. Breweries was a pretty easy one because of how many there are in the country and how many resources there already are that we could kind of build off of. And so, we're working on other forms. And then office hours, as Rob had mentioned, I have it listed here as for manufacturers open to TA providers, but I figure it's one and the same, right? We want to learn from each other. We want to workshop ideas, and we want to support our TA recipients. And so Rob also mentioned recommendation reviews. That's the perfect opportunity to review recommendations is workshopping these things in like I hate to say it, just in a situation where we're all coming from the same plane and, really leaning on who's in the room to improve what we're delivering. And then train the trainer workshops. We've got a bunch of those in the works, and what we would love to have you put in the chat topics now to set us up for what we cover in these workshops. So these are specific around technical assistance providers, and we want to be able to support you as much as possible. And so, what are your needs? And that could be anything from processes to accessing an industry expert, to building recommendations, to understanding technologies, hazardous cleaning standards of procedure, building a workbook that's very specific to a region. These are the types of things that we can build trainings around. So, and then as both Alyssa and Rob mentioned, we can prevent more pollution together. We're stronger as a unit than individually. We can share resources. We can grow this thing and support each other in the process. With that, I'm going to hand it over to John to talk about some other stuff.
Yeah, and I'll come right off your point that everybody, when we're working together, we can draw on the resources of a lot of different groups and bring more with less to the whole community. As we touched on earlier, the BetterBev program actually went through a branding effort early on, and because each group or each state had their own name for their program, and we wanted to bring it together and have a powerful way to present the BetterBev recognition that breweries and other beverage makers would be proud to display and show a level of professionalism. So, and one of the partners, New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services, engaged a marketing and graphic design firm who works with a whole bunch of breweries to come up with the BetterBev branding. And so they came up with BetterBev, which is not specific to any particular beverage. So that was very much on purpose, and came up with a nice, succinct, beautiful logo that folks can use recognized facilities can use on their labeling. You can see this wooden advertisement for Cathedral Ledge. That was you could put it out in retail sections and post the BetterBev logo there. And it just holds the whole effort together under one kind of rubric. Next slide, please, Luke. And another way that we worked all together was bringing this map to life. So each state had come up with their own map, and which was fantastic, and showed the different locations around their state and how it was growing. But we really wanted to bring the effort together, and so we were able to put it together with technological solution, which is not Esri based, not GIS. It is actually Google based, and that allows for pretty much any member to be able to go in and add sites and be part of this map. And for longevity, it's not a difficult thing to do. So as if other groups pick up the mantle of BetterBev, it can be transferred. And we've had in this map, as we expand beyond the New England states that have been here from the start, other organizations in other states could easily and have become a partner with BetterBev and start using the same map for the facilities in their state that have already been recognized. And As New Hampshire helped with the logo, the Rhode Island helped with the map development and really made that come to life and kind of built the back end of it. All right, and the next slide. And then the social media campaign. So this was new in 2025. We wanted to have everything ready, have the brand ready, have facilities ready to go. And we have built a social media presence on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And each one of the posts have similar graphics and highlights a particular item of whichever brewery is being highlighted that week. And it creates one social media account for everyone in the program. So then we've blurred the state lines and the group lines. We anyone who's part of BetterBev can be recognized here. And the great thing about the social media and working with the breweries is we can kind of co-post, or they can repost, they can share, and it just creates a much larger network for our brand to be seen and more people to be starting to think about, is there sustainability practices that can work in this industry? And Namoa was essential in putting the social media campaign together, networking with all the different states, and the University of Maryland had skills there who on graphic design that really improved our ability to look good and present a common theme face on across the different platforms. So really each group, and Rob alluded to this in the beginning, that each state program might have a staff member or funding that supports a particular aspect of a technical assistance program or a recognition program. And what collaborating does is allows us to use the best and pool our resources to improve everything in the recognition program. And next, Luke. So this gets me back to the beginning of the program when I wanted to make sure that we got our 3 points across. First one is that you can become a partner and be part of the map and expand this program. And I'm sure any other state programs would be able to provide things that would help the BetterBev program, and the BetterBev program can provide resources to your efforts as well. And essentially that this resource sharing model structure is replicable and transferable, lifts all boats, makes us all have a better program. And also it could be used in other sectors. It could be used in other parts of the world. So it's an excellent network model. And thirdly, that as Luke went through the workbook, we use the same word, workbook, assessment form, checklist. It really provides a structure for all these breweries and other beverage makers they could actually, starting from nothing, pick up the assessment form, and now they have a framework for their sustainability efforts and for their pollution prevention efforts. So it's a built-in framework that they can just pick up and go with and think about all the different aspects of their business. All right, so hopefully we've covered a lot of that and are here to answer any of your questions. Here are our contact emails. We really appreciate all of you showing up and considering what we might be able to do more together. I see one question was in the chat, and one of our partners, so that was from Michelle Gaither, and the question was, do brewers have to be members of the Brewers Association to utilize the BA benchmarking tool? And are most breweries members? And does this apply to kombucha also? And Vesela Valeva, who is one of our partners out of the University of Massachusetts, Boston, find that the members are mostly members of BA, and if you're not, you don't have access to that benchmarking tool. So, and as far as kombucha, yes, absolutely, that we would consider those makers to be craft beverage makers. So they can be, we already have one already recognized.
Yeah, can I add a little
Yeah,
bit to that?
please do.
Yeah, so one thing about the BA tool is it's essentially a spreadsheet, but it allows you to compare what you're doing to the industry standards and kind of what other participants or other users of that tool have submitted to the Brewers Association. So the big thing there, it's easy to build something similar for a specific manufacturer to benchmark off of themselves. And so, if you're thinking a brewery, if it's use of XYZ per barrel packaged, you can, over time compare how did I do this month compared to last month or the like. And so it's just kind of a tracking over time. And so, it wouldn't take very much effort to build something that would work for any industry. So I could see that being, us putting out a template for distilleries to use, for kombucheries to use, wineries, something that allows them to focus on their own impacts, but doesn't have that same kind of work in the background that the BA's amazing tool has.
Great. Yeah, it makes sense. We have another question from the chat, and please, if you'd like to ask your question verbally, you can raise your hand and we'll take your question that way as well. So Heather Oni says, can regional programs or nonprofits be a partner in BetterBev? And can they serve as technical assistance providers versus just having it in state programs? I'll pitch that to you, Rob.
Yeah. So the answer is that is yes. What the distinction here is that state programs receive pollution prevention funding. So many of the state programs are in New England and also in regions 3 and 4 have used that as a funding mechanism. But there's no reason why other organizations that also provide technical assistance can also leverage the resources of BetterBev. And, of course, BetterBev does not provide funding. Our program is not a funding mechanism. We are a partnership, a network, a number of programs that have come together to collaborate. So we have a structure that allows that to happen. And I also want to add that one reason why it's actually important to have a big tent is because as we move forward, we see that building more members, both in terms of program members and also the greater number of breweries that join this will provide economies of scale moving forward that will have new opportunities to innovate, to partner, to do a lot of things. So we're really trying to experiment in a very new way in terms of scaling up through partnerships and thinking innovatively about how to provide value for every member that comes on board and find a very high quality, inexpensive way to provide this technical assistance to businesses and also to reach businesses as well. So yes, that's one reason why we're having this webinar.
Yes, and
welcome people into the tent.
Right. You can contact any one of us to explore how we can build the partnership. That'd be great. We have another great question from Jennifer Grossenbacher. How long is the BetterBev recognition good for? And do you need to have higher points to renew? I'll give that to Luke. Oh,
Oh,
you
so
have a
I can
mic
answer
issue.
that. So,
Okay, we'll go Rob.
well, Luke, are you on? Nope, I can't hear you.
He's muted for some reason.
Oh boy. So right now, what's actually interesting is that our states have had a variety of approaches around this. Normally, it's been sort of a 2-year window. There's flexibility around this, although we don't have to have. That's the one nice thing about this network is that not everything has to be perfectly identical. And so, but to answer your question, we're looking at a 2-year period, and but we're also experimenting with how to have some kind of engagement within that 2-year period. So it's not being disconnected from a client or a recognized business for 2 years, but to do something that can bring them on board, provide some kind of update. So that's one of our tool subcommittee is actually talking about that right now, like how to maintain engagement without having to go through a full process of doing the assessment every year. So I got that right, Luke, right? 2 years? Okay.
Yeah, and I would say we are always looking for continuous improvement. So we could, as people start hitting their 2-year term, require some improvement in points. But as Rob was just alluding to, also we could incorporate what their engagement in their sustainability programs have been, and with BetterBev has been, because that's the goal of the group, is to keep them engaged in pollution prevention. Another question is, are the BetterBev standards and the checklist available to anyone? And Alyssa dropped the assessment form link into the chat there. And so you can see the assessment form right online. Also, state partners have it in PDF form. We only have it in an interactive online form on the BetterBev website. Well, actually, maybe we do have a PDF as well. But the online form, you need to fill it out to go through it. So, but you can contact any one of us to get a PDF version or another kind of version as well. But it is out there. People can click on the link and see what it is, and even fill it out, even if they're not from a BetterBev state. Let's see. Another question. Does BetterBev have a final certifying inspection or something? Or is it just relying on the brewer's completion of the questionnaire? I think I'll throw that out to Alyssa, because they just have a couple of breweries that just came through.
And Vessel also provided an answer as well, but let's
Oh yeah, let's see.
Yeah, so the way we are doing it right now is we're working with breweries that we've already visited on site and have seen their operations. Since there is funding available, we are able to go on more site visits, but it will just be that's how we're doing it right now. I can't say we will be able to go to every single one in the future, but trying to get to a majority of them is the goal. It is a voluntary program, so that's where we're at.
And looking into the future, if it becomes hard to go, visit every site, BetterBev is trying to figure out a way to create a system that it's more self-sustaining. And Rob, maybe you can talk about that, how we might be able to do train the trainers or have peer networks continue the work.
Right. So this is a collaborative, innovative process. We realize that ultimately we need to be able to create a program that has a good participation and a way to verify progress that's taking place at the facility level, but also do this in a way that's scalable, and reduce the number of hours and time that requires. So up until now, most of the assessments have been taking place with a lot of focus, with a lot of participation. But we also realize that as this program moves, we will need to have other ways of in order for it to grow, and also to reduce the cost for any participating program. We need to experiment with new ways, and that's really where more participants come into place to provide that experimentation, see how things work, and move that process along.
Yeah.
I don't know if Luke, if you wanted to add anything, or you think that was a good enough answer.
Yeah, I think that was a great answer.
And we don't use third parties to check on it, because we really it's a recognition program, not a certification program, and that's an important distinction. And our goal is to have them improve their processes, not to say where they are. Not to say that we have considered, could there be tiers? Yes, there could be tiers. We're not sure if that's going to happen or not. We still are kind of building the airplane as it flies. It's and that's one of the wonderful things about it.
Yeah, let me also add that in terms of improving processes, why this is necessary, not only to provide a quality program, but from EPA's perspective, we're looking for our grantees to provide numbers for metrics for pollution prevention results. So we're really looking for the water conservation, the energy efficiency, the toxic use reduction in terms of pounds of pollution reduced. So that's one reason why we want to have that continuous improvement, and give breweries a chance, and other craft beverage businesses a chance to also find new ways of becoming more efficient as new technologies and strategies become available.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think that, it's important for us to really focus on not letting perfect be the enemy of good. So, we want to get people into a room sharing good ideas, and really lift the baseline of these industries as a whole, because that's going to benefit the planet, the people involved, safety, health, quality, and reduce pollution in the process. And so, the more that we support a very collaborative industry and very collaborative industries to better collaborate in this area, the better the industry is off as a whole.
Mm-hmm. Great. And we're coming up to the end of our time. So I want to thank Rob, Alyssa, and Luke for all their amazing work. I just walk into this great collaboration that everyone is doing this work on. So I highly recommend being that centerpiece. It's a really fun way to work with professionals that are doing a lot of fantastic work. There are a couple questions about data and the co-op. That's a whole nother webinar, but feel free, Jennifer, to contact Rob about that. And we will definitely, Vesela just dropped the links to the articles there. So thank you, Vesela, so I don't have to send an email out to everybody. But please
the
be in
short answer to the
questions.
Is that one nice thing is that we want to do something that's create a QAP that a lot of different applicants can use, or future programs can use. So we'll create a boilerplate version that's widely applicable.
Right, that works for everybody and simplifies the process. I appreciate that. Okay, well, thank you all for coming, and please feel free to contact any of us at any time. Right, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, John. Thanks, everybody.